Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back for another DEI guide with the Terminator. Naval battles haven't been a very popular thing with Total War games generally, though I think Empire naval battles were pretty awesome. With Rome 2 especially, they can be a bit tedious and not as fleshed out as land battles, so people tend to auto-resolve. However, we all know auto-resolving in DEI is a bit of a taboo, and naval battles in DEI can actually be kind of fun if played correctly. So in today's video, I want to talk you through a guide on naval battles for Divide Et Impera, everything you need to know and do to win with your navies and establish dominance over the seas. Let's get started. So despite what many people think, naval battles from this age of history were mostly made up of ships that had great ramming potential. Boarding was absolutely used, yes. Archers were used to rain down fire, yes. But the fact is, many Hellenistic ships excavated in the last century or so were found to have strong ramming capabilities no matter the size of the ship. As a mod that focuses partially on historical accuracy, ramming is an important part of naval battles, and the main metrics used in this tactic, ramming speeds, acceleration, and base ramming damage, have all been increased to make ramming more effective in the game. Therefore, you, my friend, are missing a trick here if you're not ramming first and then boarding. A lot of players think boarding is your first and best offensive capability, but it isn't. Ramming is. With every naval engagement you encounter, if you're not thinking about how and what to ram first, then you're absolutely decreasing your chances of winning the battle already. Ramming tactics and some good to knows about ramming are essential to naval battles in DEI, especially if you're up against a faction like Carthage, which relies heavily in naval superiority. So let's run through some quick essential tips to ramming. So first off, your ships won't automatically keep ramming. This is a bug that really sucks, because it means your ships won't continue your ram order. You'll have to go back to each ship and give them the attack order again, and sometimes even then they won't do it. So I've got a few solutions for you here. First off, what I would do is slow down your battle so you can focus on mashing that attack key until your ship starts to ram again. If it doesn't, a solution here is you can order the ship to move back slightly and then give the ram order again. This generally works for me. Alternatively, you can give the ship the board order. So you've gone for that first ram, it's done some decent damage, a few of their men have flown off the ship, they've taken a morale penalty. The first ram will have absolutely caused a decent amount of damage, so you can always follow that up with a boarding order to make it even more successful. For any naval engagement, ramming ships counter boarding ships. This is like the #1 tip here. If you have a lot of ramming ships, you want to take out all their boarding ships. If you have a lot of boarding ships, you want to board their ramming ships. And that's how it works, basically. These are the essential countering tips to naval battles. You don't want to give them a chance to start ramming. You don't want to give them a chance to start boarding. And this is how you counter those effectively. Another good to know here is if a ramming ship gets boarded, it's dead. There's no way it will be able to win that engagement unless the enemy ship gets rammed by another ship while boarding. Flanking is your friend. Just like land battles, you can think of naval battles a little similarly. You can have a front line of heavy ships that can hold their ground and pin the enemy in place, while you use big flanking moves with faster, smaller ships that can go around, harass them with their missiles, and ram them. That's essentially what you need here. Flanking is really important, just as important in naval battles as they are in land battles. And especially if you have superior numbers, always go for a flank. I think this goes without saying, guys, but don't ram frontally. It's very weak. Back then, if enemy ships rammed frontally, they'd call them unskilled in naval warfare. Don't be unskilled. Go for those side rams. Lastly, two ships of the same kind ramming one ship will almost always sink it instantly. So if you've got a couple of ships that look a bit worrying on the enemy side, go for an easy, quick kill with two ships ramming it at the same time. Ramming, when used correctly, can win an unwinnable battle, especially this way, so it needs to be your first line of attack, guys. When possible, go for the ram, and if needed, board afterwards to finish them off. These are the essential tips I've been going through here to get you started and give you a good idea of how best to use your ramming potential. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't cover any sort of navy composition in this video. After all, what's the point of telling you how to win a naval battle if you don't know what ships to use, right? So with DEI generally, and especially early game, it's not so much about the quality of your units, but the quantity. With naval battles, this is also 100% true. If you have naval superiority, you will always win. And if you're dishing out on expensive units, you will lose your income instantly. My suggestion would be to avoid recruiting Hemiolias and Byrames. While inexpensive, they are weak and usually can get one rammed very easily. They have very low HP. They also don't have very good ramming potential. They're good for flanking quickly and harassing with missiles, but that's about it. What you should do instead is recruit Tri-Hemiolias and Tri-Rames where possible. The Tri-Rames will be able to pin the enemy down in place, and they have really good ramming potential as well, while the Tri-Hemiolias will be your flanking ships that harass and then go in for ramming kills. The larger your empire grows and the more income you get, of course, the more you should tier up each of these ship types. So you'll start being able to recruit Tetrarays, for example, which can make up your base, while keeping Trirames as your flanking fast ships, all the way up to Hexarays, with each tier taking one of these roles. Navy composition is just as important as the tactics you use during the battle, so pay close attention to what you're recruiting, how much upkeep will be, because naval upkeep can absolutely eat away your income. I'm going to say that again. And what the enemy fields in battle as well. You know, if you're finding, for example, that most of their ships are boarding ships, just aim for ramming only. This is a general rule of thumb for all factions, really, in the game. The Celtic and Germanic factions have weaker navies, so much more difficult to play naval battles with them, but any of the Hellenic factions have great ships, so best to use these compositions for naval battles. Alright, so finally, we have battle tactics. And I'm not going to go through too much in this section because it's actually very simple. You want to exploit their biggest weakness as much as possible. So let's run through some potential scenarios. So first off, if you match up evenly in every way, what you want to do is rely on flanking. Keep a good front line of your heaviest ships with big HP to pin them in place with ram and then boarding, and then use your fast flanking ships to get around and harass the enemy with either missiles or rams. That's basically the tactic you need to use here. If you do lack in agility, but you have a lot of ships that have big HP, in this scenario, I want you to attack them head on and as quickly as possible. Try to stop them from flanking around you and swarming you. That will be your biggest threat here. If they have more ships, then you'll have a much harder time, but it's not impossible. Focus on ramming and destroying as many of their ships as possible first, then deal with the stragglers. So if you've opted to have a navy with lots of smaller, faster ships and you're lacking in those big HP ships, the best tactic you can use here is to split your forces in two and flank around them as much as possible. Harass them from afar with missiles as you approach and try to ram enemy ships that can't react quickly. What you're basically trying to do here is pick them off one by one until you have the numbers game and you can just pick off the rest of them and end the match. One final bonus tip I want to give you here is if you're being rammed, guys, just order the ship to move forward. Don't tell it to turn to face him or reverse. You'll have a much better chance of surviving that ram if you move forward full speed. Naval battles generally get a bad rep, but when played right can be really fun, guys. I hope that with this guide you'll see that, and by using these tips have success in your naval engagements. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, hit that like button and drop your thoughts or questions in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Total War gameplay, news, and updates. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.